Hello everyone. Welcome back to the revision class provided by Professor Academy, Chennai for the upcoming UGC NET exam. In today's class, we are going to look at linguistics, micro and macro branches. Generally, linguistics is defined as a scientific study of language. It can also be defined as a systematic study of language. Under linguistics, any language or its properties can be studied properly. Okay, so with this understanding, let's go to today's class. Linguistics, we have two major branches, two sections: microlinguistics, macrolinguistics. Under microlinguistics, we have the core. So when we say microlinguistics, it refers to the core branches of linguistics: phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. On the other hand, we say macro linguistics. We have sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, historical linguistics, applied linguistics, and there are also other branches. But today we restrict ourselves to these five, and on the other side we have five. So what we are going to do, we are going to look at what each and every branch is, and with an example for each and everything. So that's the purpose of today's class. Let's go. First, micro branches, the core branches of linguistics. Number one, phonology. Phonology refers to the study of speech sounds, the sounds we use to produce speech. And each and every language has its own set of speech sounds. For instance, the phonology of British English, it has 44 phonemes or 44 speech sounds. Consonants 24, vowels 20. And what is a phoneme? A phoneme is a minimal sound unit which differs from a letter. Let's look at an example. We have a single phoneme called K. But look at the letters we use to represent this single phoneme. Kill, K-I-L-L. So here we use one letter K to represent this one single phoneme, K. Next word, trekking, T-R-E-K-K-I-N-G. Here we use two letters K-K, but still we mean only one phoneme, K. Next, car. Next, occupy. So C or double C. Both represent only one phoneme, K. So this is the difference between letters and phonemes. Letters, we can go for one or two, K or double K or C or double C in English. But all these letters represent only one phoneme. It is K. So in the phonology of British English, we have 44 phonemes. So today we are not going to look at all the 44 phonemes, but instead we look at a concept under phonology. But even this could be a question: how many phonemes are there in English, especially British English? The answer is 44. Okay, so this is the concept we are going to look at under phonology. Elision. When we say elision, elision refers to the omission of a sound or syllable in pronunciation. Example, in English we say want to go, but when we say it in quick succession, we say wanna go, colloquial, I wanna go. So here we omit a lot of sounds. Want to go, to is gone, wanna go. Or contraction, do not, which becomes, when we contract, it becomes don't. The O sound is gone. So this omission of a sound or a syllable in pronunciation is called elision. As I told you before, linguistics is a systematic study of language in general. So we need not restrict ourselves to studying the English language. We can study about our own mother tongue. We can study about a feature or features of the Tamil language or Malayalam or Telugu, Kannadam, Hindi, any language for that matter. So feel free to study the properties of any language under linguistics. Okay, in Tamil we have a concept called Sandhi. In Sandhi, we have something called elision of letters, Kedudal or Maraidal. elision of letters, omission of letters. When we make compound words. So here is a compound word called muha bottom. When we say muha bottom, refers to literal translation, the exhaustion of the face or the tiredness of the face, or something like the sadness of the face, which is made of two words. We have muham, which means face, then vatam, exhaustion or tiredness or sadness. When these two words are put together, we get a new word, a compound word, muha vatam. But in the original one, we have muham, the sound, that sound, sound disappears in the compound word, or it's called elision of letters. So when we say elision, when we study concepts like this under linguistics, we can use any language to understand this concept, or any concept for that matter. Okay, now let's go to morphology. Morphology is another important core branch under linguistics. When we say morphology, morphology is the study of formation of words, how we form words, make words, or create words. And the smallest unit, the smallest lexical or grammatical unit is called morpheme. Example, we have dogs in the plural form. So here, dog is a lexical unit because it has a meaning of its own. When we say dog, it refers to an animal. So this word has a meaning of its own. So this is a lexical unit, the smallest unit, because we can't divide this word further. Then we have suffix, plural suffix s, which is the smallest grammatical unit, which simply says some noun, when we add this, becomes a plural, which makes it plural. Okay, so that's all. So when we say dogs, it has two morphemes, dog plus, then we have s, plural suffix, so dogs. So look at this word, under development. This word has three morphemes, three smallest lexical or grammatical units. Number one, we have the prefix under, then the root word develop, then the suffix ment. So 1, 2, 3, there are three morphemes. So this is how we form words in general. Next look at the concept under morphology. Allomorph. Morph means shape, right? Allomorph. So here allomorph is something to do with morphophonology. Both morpheme and phoneme, or morphology and phonology, they come together. Here we talk about the phonetic variants of a single morpheme. We take a single morpheme and we study how it is realized in different phonemes. Let's look at an example. So we have a plural suffix yes, but when it goes with the word cat, we say cats. So the plural suffix yes is pronounced s, or next one dogs, but here it is pronounced the same morpheme, plural morpheme is pronounced z. Next we pronounce it with horses, horses. The same plural suffix is pronounced as is. So this is allomorph, or these are the variants. So you have s, z, z. So these are the phonetic variants of a single morpheme, single plural morpheme. Yes. So this is called allomorph. Next one, we go for syntax. Syntax is a study of sentence structures, but under syntax we also study word clauses, phrases, and clauses, CLAUS, and sentence structures. In generally, words are divided into two types, or word clauses. We have form clause words and function clause words. What are form clause words? Form clause words include nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. And these are the core. Why? In any language, we get new nouns, new verbs, new adjectives, new adverbs according to the situation, according to each and every section or of that society. For instance, during the COVID, we got a lot of words. We have COVID itself, the word, or social distancing. There are a lot of words which entered the English language, also other languages. And in any language, these form clause words are open clause, which are always open in the sense the gates are always open, in the sense new words are always coined, and the new words are coined in the form of nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. On the other hand, we have function clause words, which are closed clause, in the sense the gates to this section is almost closed. We have words like, words which do grammatical function, like preposition, conjunctions, articles, or pronouns. These words we hardly get new pronouns or new conjunctions or new articles. Articles still we have in English a and the. There is hardly any new article because of the COVID or any other situation. So these clauses of words, word clauses are almost closed. There are no new entries. So that's why they are called closed clause. On the other hand, form clause words are open clause. When we say syntax, one of the famous concepts is transformational generative grammar, also called universal grammar, put forward by the American linguist and activist Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky says, see, this grammar has something to do with our mind grammar, universal grammar, which talks about how languages function in general, not a particular language. Okay, this is the grammar of languages in general. Grammar in the sense how they function, or how languages function, or language functions. So Chomsky says, whenever we speak, before we make a sentence, in our mind, in the deep mind, we form an abstract representation of a sentence. The abstract syntactic representation of a sentence, that is called deep structure, which is abstract in the sense not in its concrete form. For instance, if I want to say it rained yesterday, before I make that sentence, in my mind deep, there is a kind of an abstract structure. I say, okay, it, then rain, plus past. So I have to say past tense because I'm talking about yesterday. So this is a kind of an abstract syntactic structure. It rained plus past plus yesterday. And when I speak, this is the sentence that comes out to the surface. It rained yesterday. I have added ed to the verb rain to indicate that it was past tense. So it happened yesterday. And there is a transformation from the surface structure, from the deep structure to the surface structure. Surface structure is the concrete syntactic representation of the sentence that you can hear, that has come out of the mind. It rained yesterday. And before that, there is a kind of a change or changes. So from the deep structure to the surface structure, there is a transformation. In the sense, rain is transformed into rained. Even there can be a lot of transformation, like the word yesterday, adverb of time can be brought to the front. We can say yesterday it rained. So these are the transformations from the original deep structure. So we can have two or more surface structures based on a single deep structure. Okay, so this is called transformational grammar. Transformational grammar consists of two structures, deep and surface, and from deep there's a transformation and we get surface structure. And what is a generational grammar? Generational grammar refers to our ability to generate as many new sentences as possible, which are never heard before, right? So our ability to create sentences, and there is no limit to our ability, and that is called transformational grammar. In the sense, we hardly mug up sentences. We don't mug up sentences and repeat. Once we learn the pattern, the sentences come automatically according to the situation. That ability is called generative. Okay. So this is transformational generative grammar by Noam Chomsky. Next, let's go for semantics, the fourth branch, core branch. Semantics is the study of meaning. When we say meaning, we study of the meaning of words, phrases, or sentences. And under semantics, one of the fields is etymology, the study of origin of words. Let's look at a word and its origin. The word teddy or teddy bear. Teddy was actually a nickname of the American president Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore was fondly called Teddy. There was a story. The story was that Theodore Roosevelt was a hunter of bears. And one day, a friend of his, invited him for a hunt. It was a setup hunt, right? A bear cub, a young bear, was tied to a tree, and Roosevelt was given a gun and he was asked to hunt that bear. But he took pity on that bear and he asked the host to just let the bear go. And the hosts were shocked because they arranged this for Theodore Roosevelt to hunt. But Theodore Roosevelt let it go. And we don't know whether this story was true or not, but this caught up the imagination of many. And there was this Brooklyn candy store owner, Morris McTom. He came up with a toy. He came up with this teddy bear, a kind of a toy or a kind of toy for children, a bear which looks like a bear stuffed. And he named it Teddy after Theodore Roosevelt, because Theodore Roosevelt also called Teddy. So the nickname, this product which we buy now, teddy bear, was named after him. And further, he was also associated with hunters, hunting bears, and especially that story. So that's how we get this word teddy or teddy bear, which is immediately associated with the American president Theodore Roosevelt. Like this, we also study a lot of words and their origins. There are a lot of origin stories. There are also folk etymology that we attribute meaning to some words. So let's look at loan words under semantics. Why? Because in NET exam or any exam for that matter, for English, we get words and they ask the origin of the word. So let's look at some words from Spanish. So we get words like chili, cockroach, gorilla, mosquito, potato, tomato. These are some of the words borrowed by English from Spanish. Likewise, you have to have a list of words borrowed from French, Russian, German, from Hindi, from Tamil, from Malayalam. So that will help you tackle questions if we get a question based on loan words borrowed from other languages. Okay, but remember here, Spanish easy to remember because it's most of the words here end with O: mosquito, potato, and tomato. And also remember chili, cockroach, and gorilla. So gorilla here refers to warfare, a form of war. Next, the fifth branch, pragmatics. When we say pragmatics, which means practical. So pragmatics refers to the study of language or the use of language, or the practical use of language, or language in use. Simply put, how a particular language is used in everyday situation, or simply put, language in action, how it is used in everyday context. And let's look at a concept under pragmatics. Deixis, D-E-I-X-I-S, which refers to words that refer to person, time, or space. In everyday language, whenever we refer to someone or time or space, we use certain words so that they can follow what we are saying. So when we refer to a person or people, it's called personal deictics, D-E-I-C-T-I-C-S. We use pronouns like you, he, she, first, and second person pronouns or third person pronouns. More, that when we say this pronoun, it points to someone. So it is called personal deictics. Or we have temporal deictics. We refer to time, now, yesterday, tomorrow. Or spatial deictics. We say here, there, left, right, go straight. So these are spatial deictics. So personal, temporal, and spatial. So these are deictics, which we use often in everyday life. Next, the cooperative principle put forward by the British philosopher of language, Paul Grice. He says, whenever we speak with people, we follow 4 maxims of conversation, or we should follow 4 maxims of conversation. They are maxim of quantity, of quality, of relevance, of manner. When we say quantity, when we speak, we have to give necessary information. What is necessary to that occasion? Right? It should be informative, it should be useful, informative, and to the point. Next, quality. Whatever we say, which should be based on truth, which should have some adequate evidence. We should not lie. Third, relevance. So whenever we say something, that should have some relevance to that occasion. We should not just say something irrelevant to the topic. And manner, how we say it, that should be brief, clear, and orderly. So like this arrangement, right? Quantity, quality, relevance, and manner. Informative, truthful, relevant, and brief. Next we go to macrolinguistics. So macrolinguistics, when we say macrolinguistics, these are not the core branches, but the extension. How we relate linguistics with other branches, other studies. So let's go for the first one, sociolinguistics, something with sociology. So here we study the relationship between language and society. And let's look at a concept put forward by Polish-born British anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski. The concept, patic communication, P-H-A-T-I-C, patic communication. What is patic communication? It's a language that is aimed at establishing an atmosphere or maintaining a rapport in a conversation. In the sense, whenever we want to speak with someone, what we do first, we don't go straight to the topic. We first establish a rapport, a kind of an atmosphere that is good for communication. We say, hi, hello, how are you doing? Or we say, how is the weather? We talk about weather, or we talk about their health. Or after the conversation, we say, bye, take care. So all these things, why do we say that? We say all these things to build a rapport. We want to be in a good relationship with that person. That's the primary purpose. The primary purpose of this patic communication is to establish relationship, to establish contact. It's not the core communication itself. Next, we also have another concept called speaking, or speaking model of communication. So before that, it was, this model of communication was put forward by Delheims, H-Y-M-E-S. Delheims says, take any speech event. Delheims was an anthropologist. So speech event, any event that has a beginning, middle, and the end is a speech event. Think of an interview which has a proper structure, or even for this, take this clause itself. It has a beginning and this clause and it ends, right? Or take a sermon or lecture or any clause for that matter. It's a speech event, or any telephone conversation is a speech event. So take any speech event, we have to follow this model. Speaking model. It's an acronym. S-P-E-A-K-I-N-G, speaking. The letter S stands for setting and scene. Whenever we speak, whenever there is a speech event, there should be some time and space, right? If there is going to be a sermon, we know the time and the space where it's going to take place. It should be a church, and there should be some time, right? Next, P, participants. So speaker and audience. So there should be a priest and there should be a congregation. Next, E for ends. What is the purpose? So if you say sermon, it's all about getting to know God more and the purpose of man. Next, A for act sequence. The form and the order. If it's a sermon, it has its own beginning. How the priest begins a sermon, he or she might begin a sermon with a story from the Bible, then a kind of a sermon, then it finishes or ends with a moral, right? Then K for key, the tone. As a priest, the priest has to take a tone and the manner so that it invokes fear or invokes that religiosity in the congregation. Then I, instrumentalities, refers to channel and medium. Is a sermon online or projected on TV, or it's a real one where you go to the church and listen? So there are a lot of channels and a lot of mediums through which we can reach out to the audience. Then N, norms of interaction. So whenever there is a speech event, there are social rules and codes we have to follow. So there are ways in which the priest should follow while addressing the audience. And the last one, genre. G for genres. Genres in the sense, what kind of speech act are you going to use? It's going to be a speech, or it can be a joke, or it can be a parable, right? There are a lot of ways. Genre refers to the types of speech. So joke is a kind of speech act because it has its own starting, middle, and the end. Or sermon, or class, or it can be maybe a TV serial. Anything can be a speech event. Okay. So with this, let's go to the next branch. So we have psycholinguistics. So under psycholinguistics, we study the relationship between language and the mind. How our mind processes language. For instance, when we are born, language is not a given. We have to learn the language. So that's called language acquisition. Two types majorly. So we have first language acquisition, L1, then second language acquisition, L2. So a person's mother tongue or native language is the first language. And any language that is learned after we learn our mother tongue, it's second language. But the process is different. The way we learn our mother tongue, we don't think that we learn at all. It comes naturally to us. But there is a process involved because not every child speaks fluently. There are children who take time to get to know that mother tongue, and they take time for years, sometimes 5 or 6 years to speak the first language. Then second language, once we master our mother tongue, we try to learn other languages like English. And that process is entirely different. Generally, we learn the second language at school or at college. Maybe we can also go for third language, which is an entirely different type. It's not just immediately we speak, we learn the properties of that particular language, its grammar, words, but then everything, then we finally start talking. And the environment helps us. Maybe there's a rule at school that you should speak in English, then automatically then we start forming short sentences, then fluency comes in. Okay, next one. There is a theory under this category, the cognitive development theory by the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget, Jean Piaget. He says cognitive development falls into 4 phases. So how a child acquires a language? There are 4 stages in the sense how we reach the topmost stage. For instance, the first stage, sensory motor, SENSORIMOTOR. Sensory motor refers to our birth and 2 years of age. And this stage is more to do with object permanence, in the sense a child needs the presence of the object. If the object is not present, if the object is not in front of the eyes of the child may not talk about that object. If that object is in front of the in front of the child may talk about it. So the child needs the presence of the object to talk about that. For instance, cat, or whenever the mother feeds the child, if the mother points at a crow or a dog or a cat, the child might say yes, boo boo, or kaka. So it may say something, but it needs, I mean, in order to speak, it needs the presence of that object. So that's the first stage. Next one, pre-operational, from 2 years to 6 or 7 years. So this is egocentric thought, where the child relates anything with itself, ego, I. So it says mother, father, or grandma, and everyone is based on the ego. The child says, I am. So this is not me. So this is mom. So this is not me. This is dad. So this is not me. This is grandma. So, or this is cat. This is not me. So it always negates. Simply put, the child starts differentiating itself from others. Right? So we enter language through differentiation, and it starts with the self. We differentiate ourselves from others. So that is called egocentric thought. Third one, concrete operational, from 6 or 7 years to 11 or 12 years. So here we are fluent in conversation. We talk with others. Good. And there is still something. We don't talk about abstract things. We talk about concrete things, what we experience, what we are able to see, tangible things. There are certain things children don't talk about. For instance, they don't talk about God in general. And that comes in the fourth stage, formal operational, from 11 or 12 years to adult, where we talk about things which are not present. We can talk about future, which is abstract. Yet we can talk about the future, abstract reasoning, or God, or love. So these are the things that is not concrete, which is based on our abstract reasoning. And we enter this stage from 11 years to 12 years, then it goes on and on. Okay, these are the 4 phases of our cognitive development. Next one, neurolinguistics. Under neurolinguistics, we study the relationship between language and the brain, how the brain processes language. And we know the left brain, or the left hemisphere, or the left part of the brain, is associated or is responsible for our language abilities and disabilities. Disabilities in the sense, if this particular part of the brain, left hemisphere of the brain, is affected or is damaged or is hurt in an accident, then we lose the ability to speak. So that's called disabilities. So there are 2 major areas. One we call Broca's area, named after the French surgeon Paul Broca. Paul Broca said the anterior speech cortex, that is the front part of the left hemisphere of the brain, what we see on the screen, is responsible for the production of speech, which is responsible for how we produce speech, how we make speech. On the other hand, we go to the posterior speech cortex, right? The back part, which is named after the German doctor Karl Wernicke, W-E-R-N-I-C-K-E. It's called Wernicke's area, which is responsible for the understanding of speech. So here we understand when someone says something, we understand that. So here, this process, the understanding process happens here. Okay, one is Broca's area, another is Wernicke's area. Next. So under this category, we make a lot of mistakes, speech errors. One of the speech errors is Spoonerism, named after William Archibald Spooner, an Oxford don and ordinate minister, a priest. He was known for making this mistake. What he did, he just transposed initial sounds of different words. Look at this example. Instead of asking, is the dean busy? Spooner asked, is the bean dizzy? what happened? Dean busy. So B is brought to Dean. The is brought to busy. So it became, is the being dizzy? So he confused everyone, and it also created a comic situation. And similar way, when he talked to students in a graduation ceremony, instead of saying, dear old queen, he said, queer old dean. So queer, a lot of meanings. Strange or also refers to sexuality. So here again, transfer the kinds of a transposition. So Q comes to D, D goes to Q, the transposition. So this is the definition for Spoonerism. The accidental transposition of initial letters or sounds of two or more words is called Spoonerism. So kind of a slip of tongue. Okay, next one. Fourth, historical linguistics. Under historical linguistics, we study language changes and we study language families. Language changes in the sense how a particular language grows from one stage to the other, or how you developed across ages. For instance, in English, we study Old English, Middle English, Modern English. We study language change. So that's historical linguistics. And when we say language families, we talk about Indo-European families or Dravidian families. There are a lot of language families in the world. And the starting point could be 1786 for historical linguistics, especially Indo-European family of languages. We have this British colonial officer, judge, Sir William Jones. So he gave, or he presented a paper at the Royal Asiatic Society, Kolkata, where he said Greek, Latin, Celtic, Gothic, and Sanskrit seem to have some relationship in common. They share a lot of properties, language properties. So he said these languages could have come from a common language, a kind of a proto-language, proto-Indo-European language. And from this speech or paper, they thought there could be a language family called Indo-European language family, or Indo-European family of languages, under which we have Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, major part of North Indian languages, and European languages like German. Then you have Romance languages like Italian, French. All these languages are brought under this category, Indo-European family. And our focus should be mostly on West Germanic. So under West Germanic, we have English. So this could be a possible question if there is a question from historical linguistics. So English is, of course, English comes under Indo-European family of languages, under which we have Germanic family. Under Germanic, we have West Germanic. And English is a part of West Germanic family of languages. Okay. Then this is for most of the languages in the north of India. South, we have Dravidian languages or Dravidian family of languages. This was put forward by Robert Caldwell, a priest and also one who studied the southern languages for more than 50 years. And he was a priest and he built a famous church in Idayankudi in Tirunelveli's district in Tamil Nadu. He came up with a book called A Comparative Grammar of the Dravidian or South Indian family of languages, where he talks about Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannadam, Tulu, and Toda, and a lot of other languages. He says these languages differ from the other languages in India, and he groups it under, or he groups them under Dravidian languages. So under historical languages, we can study language families. We can also study all these languages. We can also study Indian languages. So this is what I keep saying, that do not think that linguistics is a technical subject, or linguistics, under linguistics, we should read, we should study only the English language. We can study any language under linguistics. Okay, so with this, we go to the last branch, applied linguistics. Applied linguistics refers to the practical use of linguistics. After studying linguistics, where are you going to apply, practically apply or use linguistics, your knowledge of linguistics? One, we can use our knowledge of linguistics to teach English, right, to foreigners, or we can learn a foreign language. So that could be one use, right? ELT, English language teaching, or we learn that language. That's one. Not only English language, any language for that matter. We can teach or learn. Language learning. So that's one use. Or we can go for translation, or we can go for lexicography, compiling dictionaries. So wherever there is a use, practical use, we use our language. Or even for copywriting, copy editing, anything something to do with language. Okay. So there is a concept called contrastive analysis. And this analysis is used in language learning. When we learn languages, we automatically compare two or more languages. That comparative study of two or more languages is called contrastive analysis. We compare and contrast the properties or features of two or more languages, especially from the point of view of translation or foreign language teaching. And under contrastive linguistics, there is a concept called false friends. In French, it's called faux amis, FAUX-AMIS, or false cognates. In the sense, it's like false homophones. So homophones, but in different languages. Example, we have mundiri. It sounds the same, homophone, right? It sounds the same, almost spelled the same in both Tamil and Malayalam. But the problem with these false friends, they look the same, they look like friends, but they are false because they mean different things. In Malayalam, when we say mundiri, it refers to grapes. In Tamil, when we say mundiri, it refers to cashew nut. So both look the same, spell the same, but they mean different. So this is called false friends. Under lexicography, when we say lexicography, it refers to the compilation of dictionaries, dictionary making, the making of dictionaries. Let's look at just some of the famous dictionaries in English. 1604, we have Robert Coverday's A Table Alphabetical, which is considered the first monolingual dictionary. Why it is considered the first monolingual dictionary? Because earlier there were dictionaries, but they were bilingual dictionaries using two languages. Dictionaries where we use two languages for definition or other things. For instance, Latin English or Hebrew English or Greek English or English Greek. These are bilingual dictionaries. But for the first time, we have A Table Alphabetical compiled by Robert Coverdray, which is a monolingual dictionary. A word is defined in its own language. An English word defined in English itself. And that is a monolingual dictionary. Then we got monolingual dictionaries. So we have 1755, Samuel Johnson's famous Dictionary of the English Language, which is a landmark. Then when it comes to American English, the landmark 1825, Noah Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language, because Webster said, in America, we have our own language, our own English, in a sense, spelling, in terms of spelling, in terms of meaning, in terms of grammar. The American English differs from the British English. Then there is a historical project, a project that is not paralleled by any other project in the history of lexicography. So we have the Oxford English Dictionary, OED, but initially it was called A New English Dictionary on Historical Principles. We have the most famous editor-in-chief, James Murray. But the project took a lot of years, a lot of decades. It started around 1857 and it came to an end. I mean, the first one, first set in 1928. And James Murray was responsible for bringing out the initial sets of dictionaries. but they ran out of money, and they were sponsored by, I mean, the project was sponsored by Oxford University. So this dictionary became OED, Oxford English Dictionary, okay, because they sponsored the project. But initially it was called a New English Dictionary on Historical Principles. Why historical principles? In the sense, they took a word, historical principle, in the sense, take a word, talk about its origin, talk about how it is composed, where it was used for the first time. They try to trace, and they try to trace how it evolved across ages. That's a tough job, and different senses, because across ages it develops or it gains a lot of meanings. So we trace each and every meaning and how or where it was used and which novel or which prose piece or anything. Okay, so this is how they went about with each and every word. So that's why it's a very rare project and a successful model for others. Okay, so with this, let's end today's class. I hope this is a proper introduction to linguistics. So hereafter, face linguistics with confidence. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to Professor Academy's new channel, Professor Academy English, which is exclusively for the students of English literature. And we offer courses for UGC NET and SET. In Tamil Nadu, we offer courses for UG TRB, PG TRB, Polytechnic TRB, TET. And if you want to join the course, please contact this number 75501000920. Thank you so much.